I've actually got my letter to you, Becky, because this one is never going to be far from my desk. The script in here is so useful. A, for making your backgrounds. B, just going to use it sort of without the block again today. You've seen me do this before where we just have a touch of stamping just to create a suggestion that there's something there.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be using elements from here as well. Got the little dots on here, the wavy bits, all sorts, just to add some detail. And I'm going to use the stencil. We've also got on the show the background stencil and focal stamps as well. So I'm actually going to be using the stencil out of this set to add some detail. And I just want to, let me just pull that one out for you.
Whilst you are grabbing that out, I did actually have a message in just in from Gilmore. What stencil did you use to make the card?
The first one was out of that layering set, which was the perfect Pretty Peonies, not perfect. Pretty Peonies. It's a set of 3 stencils, so you get all the layers, but I just use the background one.
Perfect.
But any of your stencils will work. If you've got the big 12 by 12s, you know, you don't have to do a 12 by 12 project. You know, if you've bought those big ones, use them on your, you know, on your cards. It doesn't have to be. Just because the stencil starts out that big doesn't mean your project has to be that big. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's $7.99 in the UK. Gilmore, if you do want it, it's by itself online because the bundle sold out, so I'm sorry about that.
Right, so as I say, we're going to use that stem, and I want this sort of lovely trellis part that we're going to use. And I'm going to just do a very, very tiny project this time. Now, Craig touched on this a little while ago, and he talked about artist trading cards. And I know I was watching in one of his wake-up calls, and he did a gorgeous demo with the, in fact, I'm not sure if it wasn't these stamps that he was using. But basically, these are little tiny mini pieces of art. So again, if you're just starting out, it's a nice little size to work on rather than having something that's bigger and a little bit daunting. So traditionally they measure 3.5 inches by 2.5 inches, and it is a set size, and they actually derive from the collecting, you know, sort of the cards, the packs of cards that you can collect, not playing cards as such, but you know, like the, yes, and top trumps and things like that. That kind of thing, yes. So 3.5 inches by 2.5, and you can use them portrait or landscape. And the idea is that you make your little pieces of art, and then on the back you write who it's made by, what it is, what you've used, and what number, you know, maybe you've made more than one of them. And then you actually trade them with your friends. And this was very big, so I'm probably going back about 10 years or so now. I used to get involved in this. I've got folders full of these from my crafty friends at home. So you make one, your friend makes one, and then you exchange them. So where the trading bit comes from. So a little bit like you said, Becky, with the Pokemon trading cards, that kind of thing. But then, you know, we had issues with the postage going up, and then people were a little bit more sort of concerned about putting things through the mail. So what I've done is I've taken 3 pieces of watercolour card as my base. We're just going to work on one of them because I've actually got the others ready, but I'm going to show you how I arrive from a piece of blank white card to where I'm going to end up with. So again, we're going to apply lots of different things to it. The first thing is just simply going to be some ink. Now, we've not got specific inks on the show today, but they're always on our website, and this is the pigment one. So I'm using the fuchsia, which is the middle pink out of the pigment inks, and I'm literally going to squidge this onto my glass mat. If you've not got a glass mat, you can do this on a craft mat, you can do it on a piece of acetate. As long as it's non-porous, then you're good. In my spritzer bottle, I've just got plain good old tap water, and I'm going to spritz that to activate that ink, and then literally dip my card in it just to pick up some colour. So this is the first layer. We're back to that layering again with sort of touching on mixed media. So just keep dipping in there until you've got, and I don't want to cover the whole thing. If you can see there's still some sort of bits of white in there again. So if you get it pooling in places, you can just dab the edge of it there. And I think that's probably, what I'm going to do is dry it. I've got my little quiet heat tool that makes them all laugh because they don't think I've turned it on.
Yeah, you do look like you're just pretending.
But it is on, honestly, listen. It is on.
That was just Jan humming.
I've just
down
melted the microphone now. But once you've actually dried it, the opaque ink will actually layer up, so you can actually get some more sort of detail beautiful. Over the top of it.
Looks like you've really zoomed in on a flower petal. It looks fab.
Yeah. So again, you know, at home, in fact, we've got a bit more card. Rather than waste my ink, let's just smooch another one in there.
Yes, smooch away.
Let's go for it, shall we? And just pick up. And you always get like a different effect each time you do this, which is what I like about it. And again, you know, if it builds up in places where it looks a bit deep, just give it a blot. All right, and we'll leave that one to dry. Okay?
That looks a bit like
and
the
I am going to
shoes
take
I'm wearing
that
today.
off there.
You could do doodles over that and stuff, couldn't you?
What, sorry?
You could do doodling and so much over it.
You're with me, Becky. You're with me. Right, we're going to add some more to it.
I must craft.
We're going to add some more to it. This is just the very first layer. So I want to make sure it's dry. And then in the gaps here, where I've got some white left, I'm going to bring in those pixie sparkles. Now these are actually magic, it's like magic dust. So you've got a whole bottle full of a powder that literally explodes in colour when you add water to it. So let me just show you on a piece of actual white cardstock what I mean. So I'm going to spritz this with a little bit of water. I'm going to tap a bit of this one out, and this is teal. And then when you spray it again, you'll see how that colour just, they're like, a bit like fireworks. So you can see how they sort of start to work. Now again, water-based product. So if you tapped a little bit out onto your mat and added water, you can paint with it, and you get the most, when this is dry, you get the most exquisite sparkle from it. And I'm going to incorporate this in now with our ink. So I'm just going to dab some of that water off, just to show you that sparkle when it's dry. And then we're going to pop some of this to mix in with the pink. They're still laughing at my heat tool because it's so quiet.
Should I make up the sound effects?
It is on, honestly. They keep telling me to plug it in.
What I love about this Cosmic Shimmer that you've got here, the Pixie Sparkles one, is it's to do with the size of the micas, and you get that.
Yeah.
It's almost like the festival where you throw paint. It looks incredible.
But just look where it's catching the light. Just honestly.
I love it.
It's gorgeous stuff, it really is. So
wow.
again, lends itself to lots of different backgrounds. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim for the areas that are not as dense with the pink. So I'm going to put some in here where there's a little bit of white.
Okay.
And I'm going to pop a bit. I haven't actually wet this piece of card first because I don't want the pink to run too much. So I've literally gone into those areas where there was a gap. And then when we wake it up, just look. And honestly,
magical.
I'm going to start drying it straight away because I don't want too much of it to run. And once it's dry, you'll get that gorgeous sort of shimmer come through, which is the mica that comes through in it. And there's lots of different colours in this again, so you can play mixing them to your heart's content. You know, it doesn't have to be just the one. I've just chosen two there with the ink and the Pixie Sparkle to make my background. All right, so I'm just going to dry the rest of it. Again, if it starts pooling, just dab the edges, dry the back as well. And then we're going to do a bit more over the top of it. I'm not finished yet. So a few more layers on the top yet, but we do need to make sure that that is dry. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid on my sparkles before I have an accident, because I don't want that everywhere. And again, I've used the tiniest little bit there. You know, this is actually a 30 ml pot, so it's going to last you a long time. You only use a little tiny piece of it. Even when I did this on the bigger piece of cardstock, didn't use much of your product at all.
So many people saying, this is super fun, Jan. That's in from Katie. Deborah says, I have to try this.
Thank you.
Betsy saying, this is so cool.
But look, just look where that's picking up the light. So you've got the opaqueness of the ink, and then you've got that lovely sparkle coming through with the pixies there.
Oh, it looks
so
amazing.
already we've got some interest going on. So we've not finished yet. I'm going to bring the stencil in now, and I'm just going to use the back of this as a bit of a guide. And what I want to do is just bring a little bit of stenciling down one side, and I'm going to bring in some more sparkle now. So this is actually the sparkle texture paste. So this dries with some body to it. So when I bring it through my stencil, you're going to get a raised image of the stencil work. So the first one that I did, when we did the card at the top of the show, this is actually flat because it was the polish. But with the sparkle texture paste, and we also do a pearl. We've got pearl on the show, which I'm going to use later on in the day. These actually dry raised. So it's a little bit like modelling paste, structure paste. It comes in all different names, but this one's just it's called texture paste, but it's got that gorgeous glitter. And this one's Aurora, so you're getting all those lovely different colours in it when it catches the light. So again, let's just have a look inside there and just look. This was the first one to sell out last time, Becky. And I can see why. It is so useful because it's sort of translucent when it's finished. You're still going to see some of the image work underneath. So I'm just using a flat plastic spatula, or you can use a metal one if you've got a metal one. A little bit out of here. 50%
of the stock of the Aurora has gone, 50% gone.
And literally just drag it through that stencil. So I just want to try and keep it on part of here, not all the way across. Okay, so a little tiny, and again, little bit goes a long way. And you will find, because they're all watercolour products, it will pick up a little bit of that colour from the Pixie Sparkle, but don't worry. All right, that's all I want to do with it there, that little bit. And then gently take your stencil off, pop that to one side. And if you've got any product left on here, I tend to just use my finger, push it through the stencil onto a piece of scrap card. And you're going to get sort of another piece that you can either die cut from, you can start and use as another background, the beginnings of another piece of a project. So don't waste that detail that's on it, and then the rest of it will just, while it's wet, it will just wipe away. If it's dried on again, then just pop it under the tap with a little bit of soapy water and it'll come away. So again, little tiny bit, so it's going to last a while. So we've got 50ml pots with that one. Let me just clean all the tools up as I go along. Clean off the mat. And then because that's wet, that takes a wee bit longer to dry. So I would probably say about half an hour or so for this to be touch dry. So you can see here where we've got those layers now. We've got the pink opaque ink, we've got the lovely shimmer from the Pixie Sparkle, and then just to that side there, can you see that detail from the stencil? So literally, I'm going to bring in one that again I've done and dry. So I've got exactly the same here. Pop that one to one side for a second. You can see where I've got that pink ink in the background, a bit more mottled with the Pixie from the blue. And then I've brought in that stamp from the textured stamp sets. And as I say, I love this particular set. Is definitely going to be a favourite of mine, because this one here, and again, I tend to just use this with my hand. I don't bring anything. I don't want a big block of stamping over the whole thing. And because we're only working on such a little project, I tend to just put it in my fingers. I've changed to a grey flagstone. This is one of the finesse inks. All right. And literally just bring in little bit. And I'm stamping over the top of the texture paste. And I just want little elements of it here and there. And you can see where it's sort of bringing in a bit more interest on there. So I have done a bit of it already. Just clean the ink off your stamps again. And then make sure we're all clean as we go along. And again, we're going to start and keep building on this one. So what I've done at home is I've cut out, using some of my heart dies, just some, you know, I love working with book paper again. Stuck a couple of bits to some card just to strengthen it a bit. And then this is actually going to be my main sort of image on here. But just before we do that, I'm going to use, off this same stamp set, I'm going to use the lovely little wavy, they're almost like a postmark line. Not that you can see there, there we go, look. It's almost like a little postmark, and I'm going to use this little round circle, okay? So again, just little tiny bits of it here and there. I'm going to stick the heart down because I want that postmark bit to come over the top of the heart. So just a little bit of my tacky glue there. just to pop this on top. And as I say, all I've done is back the book paper onto some card, some scrap card, and then literally cut it out with a die and just inked a little bit around the edge. So we'll just give that a press on there, and then I just need to grab a little rocker block will do the trick. Try not to make as much noise as I did the other night. I went rummaging for a rocker block, tried to be really quiet while Ben was talking, and the whole lot came out. It's like, what are you doing down there? Oh, it's like the old thing, isn't it? When you're trying to be quiet, nothing ever works. So pop the pin in there just so that my glue doesn't dry up. And then literally what I want to do is ink up that little postmark element, and I'm going to go for sort of a little bit across the actual base and into the stamp as well, so that it comes across both there. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do with that bit. And again, just building these up, and then again I put that little circle on, and these are just additional elements. You can stamp over the edge, it doesn't have to be a full image, so we can bring some of those. Okay, and then just to finish off, I've got some little words again that are from my stash, little tiny words, and this one says journey. So I'm going to add some glue to that one. And what I've done is I've made a set of 3 of these. All right, so we're going to have journey, we'll have it at a bit of an angle there. And I've actually done the other 2 already at home to make a set of them using the same products, all right? And you can just see there how we've got that set of 3. It says create your own journey. So again, little tiny pieces of art that you can then, as I say, if you wish, swap with your friends. You can keep them in your stash, whatever it is. You can actually make a set of 12 of them, and you can use the what they call the pocket letters, and they're like a plastic sleeve that's got 12 pockets in, and these just fit in nicely. All I've done is just back them on a little bit of black card just to give it a border, and you can see there that we've got just a backing on them. But yeah, just again, something a little bit of fun, just something a bit different for you, just to use all those different, you can see how those background stamps blend in beautifully with it, and then using a couple of those Cosmic Shimmer products thrown in there just for some added sparkle. Okie dokes.
I love them!